first game. The Edmonton Oilers at the Colorado Avalanche. Puck drops 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Pacific. As we know, the Avalanche took game one in this series 8-6. They held on after jumping out to a 7-3 lead in the second period. And Connor McDavid kind of led Edmonton back, scored that goal late in the second to make it 7-4, and got a little hairy there for a second. But overall, the Oilers have now dropped 4 straight meetings in Colorado. The favorite in this series has won 7 straight times. Let's take a look at the number on tonight's game. Colorado minus $1.80, still a massive favorite over the Oilers. 7 over minus $1.35. And the side hasn't moved yet, but we have seen some Colorado money come in on both the side and the puck line. And of course, the public is all over the over in this one, pushing it up from minus $1.35, pushing it up to $1.35 after opening minus $1.30. I talked to a sportsbook director yesterday, and I said, is it possible that we could potentially see a 7.5 in this series? And he said, depending on what happens tonight, absolutely, we could see a 7.5, and it wouldn't be 7.5 under. He said it would be 7.5 each way. So that's very, very interesting moving forward. Tonight's starting goaltenders, of course, Smith against Kemper or Francouz. We'll see what happens. Of course, Darcy Kemper is out with the upper body injury, which is suspected to be that same eye injury he had problems with earlier on in the postseason. So we'll see if that's affecting him. But regardless if Kemper starts or if Francouz starts, we are definitely going to stay on the same side in this one. We'll explain that a little bit later. And of course, going right back into the breakdown, and we start at goaltender. Kemper re-aggravated an upper body injury, which was to his eye. My guess is that we are going to see Francouz tonight. He is the projected goaltender on many websites that I rely on. So we'll see exactly if he does get the start. Good way to find out. After practice, you get on social media, see who the first goaltender is off the ice, which is always announced by some of their beat writers. Then you'll know who's going to get the start. As of right now, nobody in the Colorado organization is saying, and of course, Jared Bednar, the head coach, has said, well, we'll see. We'll see how things go, which is kind of the cat and mouse game that we play this time of year. At some point, though, guys, these teams are going to have to start making an effort to play some defense. And to me, usually game 2 is where you would see that effort. I think if in order to win this series, it is we focus so much on the top lines and we focus so much on the stars and the goaltending. In order to win this series, you must be the team that figures out a way to play better defensively. And after an 8-6 hockey game, I would think both Jay Woodcroft and Jared Bednar are going back into their caves thinking, okay, how can I stop the other team? So defense is on the mind of both teams or both coaches in game 2. I was going to go with my selection tonight, even if Darcy Kemper started a game. But even better to me if Pavel Francouz starts for Colorado, because for me, I think it creates an awareness that you need to protect your goaltender who hasn't started a game in almost a month. In fact, the last time he played, we saw him in Nashville, and you don't want to ask Francouz to make 35 saves. So I think their defensive awareness to detail in their own end is going to be much sharper than it was in game 1. And I've said this 100 times before. I think the biggest difference in the series, and it doesn't always play out. I mean, we saw that in the Edmonton-Calgary series. But I think the biggest difference that coaches try to make is between games 1 and 2. And we often overlook professional coaches who are paid to stop the other team or figure out a way to win games. This is not the way either team really wants to play. They don't want to be involved in 8-6 hockey games on a nightly basis. So I do think that you will see more of a defensive effort tonight. Game 1, of course, was high scoring, but you have to put that into perspective. There's a lot of things that happen that probably will not happen in game 2. You saw 3 of those goals for Colorado come in about 2.5 minutes. And that was obviously in response to the Evander Kane goal. And then you saw Cale Makar, who, whether he was offsides or not offsides, it's up for you to decide. I will tell you this. He was onside. By the letter of the law, he was onside. So let's put that to rest. I've talked to 2 former NHL referees that have both said he was onside. So that was a good play. But there was a lot of things that happened that I don't think are going to happen in Game 2. And if they do, we're in for a wild series. So to me, both Woodcroft and Bednar are focused on defense, and that's the way we're going to go, because 7 to me is a little bit too high. So let's take a look at tonight's official selection. 1 selection on tonight's game, 2 on tomorrow. And the Oilers' previous 5 games, when their opposition has scored 5 or more goals, the next game has cashed 4 unders. We're getting plus money with this. I think it's going to be right up against the number, but I think we're looking at a 6, which is good enough to cash this ticket. So we're going to go under the 7 plus $1.15.